So I'm Terence Beckett from BRE Global, and we own and manage the BREEAM certification standard worldwide. So this year is a very similar size conference, but I'm seeing the people who are coming are asking much more in-depth questions. The education of the market seems to advance since the last Expo in 2012. So the theme of the conference this year is around sustainable development, and my presentation is focused very much towards the barriers towards individuals uptaking sustainable refurbishment of their properties. Perceived barriers are around financial barriers and also the disruption side of things. Recently, a company in the UK, a housing association, offered all of their social housing tenants free insulation into the attics of their buildings, and they had a very low uptake, around about 2 or 3% only, and it was free. Nobody could work out why they wouldn't take it. Upon asking the tenants and doing a survey, they didn't want the disruption of taking all of their rubbish out of the attic, so they had to come back with guys to go up in the attic and clean it out for them, install the insulation for free, and then re-put everything back in the attic. So sometimes the barriers aren't so obvious. We've done a number of studies in the wider business at BRE around whether it's best to knock down or refurbish. And actually it very much depends on the building, and an asset survey will very much help to identify which is the best route to take. In some cases it is better to knock down and rebuild. It depends on the construction of the building as well, and that would be determined on a case-by-case basis. However, there is the opportunity to refurbish buildings of any age. So the UK now currently has the oldest housing stock in the world. 80% of our housing is extremely old, and we are undertaking a massive programme to refurbish. And with new products like aerogel, which is a very thin insulation that can be fitted to the inside of the walls, even heritage buildings can be refurbished now as well at a very normal cost and with not too much disruption as well. One of the lessons we learnt from doing the refurbishment of our Victorian terrace, which was on our site in Watford in the UK, it was an old stable block, and the problem is you don't know what you're going to find until you take that plaster off and come to refurbish the building. So all surveys will give you some indication, but it's actually when you start you don't know whether you have dampness or whether there's decay within the buildings. And certainly if you've got buildings that are mainly built of concrete, we have something called concrete cancer, which after a period of time the concrete starts to crumble, and maybe in those cases then there is remedial treatments available, but in some cases where it's concrete it's best to start again. And I'm proud to say that we've just certified, at the end of 2012, we've just certified an office building, and it's made BREEAM in use very good, and it's an office building. And more details will come of that when they do the launch, and they're having a cocktail party around the launch of that building in the late part of March 2013. Do you know the first thing you need to do is to measure where you are, because unless you know where you are, you don't know how far you have to travel. So in my limited time, I've had 4 days in my life in Belgrade, that's all. 2 days last year and 2 days this year. And the big issue for me is a lot of buildings with district heating don't have energy meters, so you don't know what your consumption is. People don't take account and responsibility for their energy because they don't have to, and their consumption. So there's some education there, and I think educating the wider population is really, really important. And I think Serbia Green Building Council can take a really big part in educating everybody. And the other thing is, you know, when we talk about green buildings, and we talk about green buildings here, and there's some really good companies and innovative products here, but most of the focus is on large internationally occupied buildings which already are sold on the green agenda. What really you could do with doing is targeting the middle sector where local, medium-sized and small companies are doing refurbishments and new builds for Serbian companies, because these are the guys that need to be made aware to drive market change and understanding within the marketplace.